At the start of Gen 9, the new future form of Hariyama, Iron Hands, was a popular choice in competitive singles. With its enormous stats and solid physical move pool, it was a natural fit on bulky offense teams. But sometimes our first impressions don't always end up being correct. Although this Pokemon seems like it has so much going for it, it has actually dropped in usage significantly and has fallen down to the UU tier recently. What happened? Why is Iron Hands stock at an all-time low right now? Is this some sort of mistake? Let's try and figure out what's going on here. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more informative content about competitive Pokemon. A Pokemon like this being ranked in UU just doesn't seem right. Iron Hands has absolutely enormous stats. I mean, just look at these stats. It's one of the better physical electric types in the game in a world full of water types. It's got nice coverage, access to Swords Dance, and even Volt Switch for some utility. One big issue with Iron Hands is that it has a ground weakness in a metagame where Great Tusk is the king. Great Tusk is faster, it's immune to electric, and it threatens Iron Hands directly. Terra Flying is a popular option on Iron Hands to catch Great Tusk off guard. This may seem like the perfect solution, but it's actually a pretty low value use of your Terrastalize. The thing about Terrastalization is that it's an extremely flexible mechanic that you can use in different ways in every battle. Having a Pokemon on your team that relies on one Terrastalize interaction to be able to handle something very common will seriously hinder a team's flexibility. Usually teams will have high value Terrastalize Pokemon on them, like Garganacl, who can become a great defensive type and get huge value out of that Terrastalize for the remainder of the entire game. Or something like Terra Fairy on a Specs Iron Valiant, which enhances your breaking power and gives you that huge increase to stab damage every time Iron Valiant comes in. Using Terrastalize for a one-turn swing can be good, but it's not good to use a Pokemon that kind of relies on that one-turn swing to function against something very common like Great Tusk. Great Tusk is the #1 most used Pokemon, and Iron Hands is going to invite it in every time. There are plenty of Pokemon that can spend their Terra against Great Tusk to get a big swing. For example, Glimmora can use Terra Grass. This use of Terra completely eliminates the Great Tusk, which can be very worthwhile. Iron Hands using Terra Flying does not eliminate a defensive Great Tusk. Even if you Swords Dance on the turn they switch in, and then Terra Flying, and use Ice Punch, you're doing a maximum of 56% to a defensive Great Tusk. This can sometimes be good. It can be a win condition. This boosted up Iron Hands can completely sweep a team in the right circumstances, and it will 1v1 the Great Tusk if it stays in. But setting up for this situation isn't easy, and the reliance on spending Terra to handle Great Tusk like this really hinders your flexibility. There's also plenty of things in the game that can stop this Iron Hands sweep. Compare Iron Hands to a more popular bulky offense Pokemon, Kingambit. This Pokemon operates in a pretty similar way. Kingambit also has a great attack stat and great bulk, but low speed. It also commonly uses Terra Flying to get setup opportunities against Great Tusk. However, Kingambit is a more overall flexible and useful Pokemon than Iron Hands is. A big thing that Kingambit has going for it is access to Stab Sucker Punch. This priority option makes you a more immediate threat than Iron Hands, with the ability to scare out ghosts or fast, frail Pokemon in range of fainting. Kingambit does not need coverage to be threatening, and instead relies on the big neutral damage of its stab types. With the excellent ability Supreme Overlord, you also have another way to increase your damage output and potentially clean up games. Access to Sucker Punch makes spending your Terra on this Pokemon feel more worthwhile. With a priority option, you get more out of the Swords Dance. You can now 1v1 the Great Tusk and threaten a larger amount of Pokemon that are faster than you. Kingambit is a big competitor for Iron Hands, and a much easier Pokemon to justify using on teams. Iron Hands can feel like dead weight in many games, and fail to get much done, while Kingambit is useful in most games. Speaking of Great Tusk, this is not only a big issue for Iron Hands, it's also a competitor. Great Tusk has similar stats too, with great HP, attack, and defense, but it has superior utility options, and even pretty great speed for such a bulky Pokemon, which is extremely useful. There are even bulk up sets being commonly used now on Great Tusk that actually do a better job at ending games than Iron Hands. While Iron Hands is an excellent Pokemon in a vacuum, Pokemon is not a game played in a vacuum. A Pokemon can have the best stats in the world and sound fantastic on paper, but if it can't function very well against the most common threats in the game, and gets outclassed by other Pokemon with similar tools, it's unfortunately going to drop in usage. As the metagame is progressing and teams are getting more optimized, it's getting harder to justify spending a valuable team slot on Iron Hands, when similar Pokemon can tick more boxes and be overall more flexible. I'm sure this Pokemon could still work well on the right team in OU. It does have some unique traits that these competitors don't have, but unfortunately for now, it is a UU Pokemon. I never thought this would happen, but here we are. What do you think of Iron Hands? Do you think it's overlooked right now, and will in fact return to OU eventually? Or has it just finally reached its true home? What would you like me to talk about next? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching. I recently made a video about how to prepare for competitive Pokemon singles tournaments, and the decision making behind choosing what teams to use. There's also a short rundown in the beginning of that video about where to find open tournaments to sign up for and how to do that. If you'd like to take the step from playing on the ladder to playing in tournaments, check this video out. Thank you to the patrons. If you'd like to send me a team to look at in a video, or request a video topic for me to cover, take a look at my Patreon link in the description for more information. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more informative content about competitive Pokemon.
The money got different, 'cause of what I'm spending. The money got different,
oh, it's
'cause of what
Megaphone!
I'm spending.
Whoa,
The money
KO'd
got
by one
different,
hit! It
'cause
scattered
of what I'm
spikes!
spending. The money got different.